India's exports
Yeah.
are more than the amount of money that Qatar earns from oil. Today's world, we're all hit by dopamine. We want to see immediate results. Community takes time. Community is not about just adding a WhatsApp link to a LinkedIn post and saying that, hey, join this group below.
Hmm.
Right. Zero to one, the largest challenge I've seen with communities is consistency and then seeing the effect of compounding of the efforts that you put. Nayan Modi sir, 70-hour work week, right? We know how many chai sutta breaks we take. I've worked in Europe since 2019. The culture of working is very different, dude. People work for 8 hours, but those 8 hours are so much more productive.
The journey of building a community from zero to 150K plus real product enthusiasts with a lot of sponsors coming on board, a lot of global leaders coming and being a part of product folks, right? And in India, it's like definitely one of the most premium and top product community. There are many, but it really stands out. And kudos to you for that. Welcome, Suhas. We are again here on the podcast, and it's been 3 long years, and I'm sure there are a lot of changes which and learnings which we need to discuss, right? You have done so good in terms of the product community, now celebrity on Twitter, and so many things happening. So, which is something which I really want to discuss and learn more about your journey. And of course, on the personal front, it has been a lot of ups and downs, building multiple communities, traveling, and doing a lot of I would say event stuff, offline, online, building sponsorships, and so on. So there is a barrage of discussion which needs to happen, and happy to have this conversation.
No, absolutely, dude. And yeah, I think backstage you were telling me it's been 3 years since this last time we recorded.
Yeah,
The time really flies. And when I was just thinking, I think that would have probably been early days of TPF. I was in Europe at that time, that
correct.
conversation. I still remember that. So I think
Yeah.
I was looking back and thinking, yeah, definitely 3 long years for sure. Because managing all this with a full time has been pretty crazy. But I'm excited, I think, about this new phase, building community is it's an interesting. I think maybe if we look at life in 3 year blocks, I'm hoping this next 3 years is going to be more exciting than the last three.
Oh, well, very nice. And so excited to hear that as well. Yeah, so I'll definitely start with my thing, which is on top of my mind here is while we discussed last 3 years back, you were in the early phase of building TPF. You were doing a job and remotely operating it, and you were, I think, at that point of time considering moving to India and taking it full time. I've seen that journey, right from conducting those smaller events to online and offline to now, going at a global stage to represent TPF, and that is something which you are now working towards. And we'll definitely talk about it. But let's talk about this part, right? The journey of building a community from zero to almost now 150K plus, real product enthusiasts, right? And with a lot of sponsors coming on board, a lot of great global leaders coming and being a part of product folks, right? And in India, it's like definitely one of the most premium and top, valued product community. There are many, but it really stands out, and kudos to you for that. But would definitely want to now understand the frameworks and what went behind this, because there are so many people out there who look forward to build a community, not only in product but also of any interest which they have, and what is the right framework to pursue and what worked for you.
I actually have a framework as well. I'll share that. Before that, like you asked, I think 0 to 1, the largest challenge I've seen with communities is consistency and then seeing the effect of compounding of the efforts that you put, right?
Hmm.
Unlike unlike maybe, I mean, in today's world we're all hit by dopamine. We want to see immediate results. Community takes time. So I tell everyone who's looking to build community, give it 8-12 months to really start seeing some results of the effort that you've put in, right? And that's where
Hmm.
I see most communities dying. I think in the pandemic we saw tons of communities come through, right? Everyone was
Correct.
starting a
Correct.
community.
Correct.
But almost 90-95% have moved out of the scene. Like you hardly see any of them sticking around. The reason is it's hard. Like I think from the outside even I used to think, "Ha, ho jayega." The main reason is, I
Hmm.
think, only once you do it, you realize, okay, here, and it's an experimentation game. Like, I think I always draw
Hmm.
parallels between product management and community management. In my head, I
Hmm.
think things are very, very similar. The only larger difference is I feel like this takes a lot longer to see some of the feedback loops come in compared to product management. So I think that is the larger difference that I'd like to point out. I have a framework that I share for early stage community builders. It is about figuring out certain metrics, right? I'll share a slide with you post while you're editing. You can
Definitely.
add it to the top note
Yeah.
framework. I think it's pretty elaborative on how you can get started. But what it covers is essentially top no. So essentially you need to say no to a lot of things and get started in a particular niche. That's how I believe great communities
Hmm.
are built. For the longest time, if
Hmm.
you remember, I think we just did product management, right? If you think,
Correct.
uh,
Correct.
and
Correct.
in India, it was still a niche when we started. There weren't as many product managers. Of course, things have changed today. Tons and
Correct.
tons of product managers. But the idea is stay niche, become really valuable in that niche, and then figure out adjacencies. There will always be adjacency, but when you're starting, don't think of creating like this large community, etc., etc. Right? Those shouldn't be the metrics that you should
Hmm.
be maniacal about, but be really true to, okay, hey, can I create a really engaged tiny community? Keep that as your focus. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you can do that for the first 6 months and figure out your early tribe, right, that foundation will help you structure the rest of your journey. I think one of the common mistakes
Hmm.
I see people doing is today it's easy to I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier to attract members to your community, right? Because everyone is so social today.
Hmm.
Many people
Hmm.
are building top of funnel, right? Essentially, you're writing content across different platforms. So I think that bit, because everyone is a little social, content creation has become a thing. I think that has become a lot easier. But driving that funnel into something more meaningful, into something more curated, I think that is where a lot of people miss out on. Right? Community is not about just adding a WhatsApp link to a LinkedIn post and saying that, hey, join this group below. Right? That is
Correct.
probably that is something that I feel people miss out on, and that's why just like start in a niche, right? Whatever your field of passion is, whatever, if you're building a brand community, whoever you're building it for, find those early champions. It takes time, right? So give
Hmm.
that 6 month period just to find, and there is no number to it, right? It could be 10 people, it could be 100 people, it could be 200 people. That depends on you, the sector you're building in, how big it is, what stage the community is and what stage your members are at, right? Hundreds of different factors. But yeah, that is the biggest thing I'd like to share with people, that wait for compounding to come in, like don't give up too soon. And
Hmm.
second, figure out that niche, spend enough time in that niche. It's completely okay to be small. You will be big one day. That is like something I can tell you looking back in the retro, whatever space you're building in, you will get to wherever you want to get to. I wish someone had
Hmm.
told us this when we were starting. But I think one thing
Hmm.
that really worked is just focus on the niche. In that niche, provide as much value as you can, and then spread out into adjacent. So I think top two things that I love to share, but I'll share the entire framework with you. Could add in a
Sure.
screenshot of
Sure.
that slide.
No, definitely. I think that would be valuable. Plus the key insights I really loved, and especially on the compounding thing. While I mean, we see a lot, startups also being built on, and a lot of community work also happens there in terms of social, in terms of other things, and in general also, right? You see that the initial few years are just hard grunt work, focusing on polishing, and suddenly the flywheel kicks in, and you see the results coming, few years down the line. But that survival to ensure that, those years are full of that resilience and hard work. I think that is something which I have learned from your journey, because you have really been consistent into pushing out, and of course your peers and colleagues who were and even now are a part of the community, right? Well, I mean, now you have hosted one of the biggest product event, if I'm able to say it right, in India, right? And brought one of the few of the best product leaders from the world, right? Be it Lenny, be it Shreyas, and so on. So now, when you look at this community, and it's a sizable community, 150,000 plus members, and I'm sure this is a understated number, right? And they are all like people who are connected. I don't know how you're counting, but they might be aware but not really participating or whatever. What are your real goals right now? Because when you started, of course, it was to build a common place where people can learn, grow, and I see a lot of content being built in that direction. That let's put
Yeah.
educational content, opportunities, and so on. But
Yeah.
now you that compounding has played on. You have a lot of, I would say, distribution and presence both on the firing side, like with people who are looking or who are into that product space, and also on the supply side, I would say, where people need those kind of talent also, right? So you are nurturing talent versus you also have a distribution of those great bigger networks who needs talent, right, to consume.
Correct.
So I don't want to force fit something, but I want to hear it from you. How are you envisioning the bigger goal and mission of this community now?
Absolutely. In fact, I think I had a slide on this at the unconference. So I think the roadmap for at least the next 12 months is pretty clear in our heads. I think as a community today, I think like you mentioned, for people looking to break into product, we have the academy, we have Ally, a mentorship platform, and we have the opportunities, right? That's the stack. And for people who had joined us early on today, now they are in mid stage, late stage of their careers, right? They might be GPMs, directors, VPs. So, and for them, I think the different layer that we're trying to curate is what is it that they'd be more interested in. I think it is more about
Hmm.
meeting peers, learning from them, getting perspectives from across the globe, and figuring out, okay, hey, what are some other ways for them to grow up the ladder slash get opportunities, right? It's a very different problem statement
Hmm.
to solve for
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
So I think these are two buckets that we are definitely focusing on the core community, and we do lots of engagement activities around this, right? So today the stack plus engagement, community engagement, it could be weekly AMAs, monthly teardowns, quarterly cohort based
Hmm.
courses for the early stage. Offline we do multiple formats. So the idea is, okay, hey, all these layers would engage the community better, and then they would discover this entire stack. If you ask me, okay, the two main things that we'd love to cover over the next 12 to 24 months. One is vertical communities where we want to go more in depth. Right today, I think the community has grown large. So what happens in a large community, sometimes you can't go too much in depth, right? So that's
There's
why
too
we've
much
taken it.
breadth around it.
Yeah, there is lots of breadth, right? Because there are so many people
Hmm.
coming in from different walks, having very
Hmm.
different set of questions, right? Many might have been already answered earlier, but still not easy, right? So
Hmm.
that's where I think focusing now on two main things. One is we're expanding globally. I think we're across 19
Hmm.
cities in Asia today. But by
Oh,
the end
very
of this
nice.
year, we'll be kicking off Berlin. We've already kicked off SF New York. We're in
Yeah.
Singapore. We're starting Singapore from, in November itself. We're doing an event there. So the idea is have
Hmm.
6 cities outside India, outside Asia. We're already in Dubai. We're in Southeast Asia. So the idea is by the end of this year, we should be in 25 cities, and
Very
these are
nice.
actively managed, right? So we're doing at least one event every month in these cities. That is one of the stuff that we want to do, and eventually I think 12 to 18 months from now, if these chapters are actively engaged, then I think the global network comes in play, right? Tomorrow, say Vaibhav is building a Black in India, wants to chat with someone who has built something similar in another geography, right? In case you
Hmm.
all want to expand globally, in case you're hiring talent globally, in case you want to explore, right? Today there's so many people from India moving to Europe. There is this entire US India corridor that's been coming up for founders, right? In fact, with
Correct.
Caravan, there's almost 150, 200 SaaS founders that were here 3 weeks ago, right? So
Hmm.
there's lots happening. So the idea is, okay, hey, it's not easy. It's something that we're learning, but at least that is one of the experiments that we want to conduct, and that is one of the larger motives of the community, right? So we started in
Hmm.
India. I think we're one of Asia's largest product communities, and I think with this global ambition, we should be top three globally in 12 to 18 months, right? So I think that is one
Oh,
of the
wow.
that is one of the important parts on our roadmap. And like I mentioned, I think as we have an open um, broad community in the product space, I think the next goal is also to create verticals, and we've already started in that direction. Four verticals that we are currently focused on, and these again are experiments to see what works, what doesn't. We started with the Web3 community, and that scaled
Yeah.
fairly. Market is slow, but that is still something that we are actively nurturing the community. Second, we started the women in product community. That has also grown really well over the last couple of years. In fact, I think it's been 1.5 years. We have just started the fintech folks, right? The idea is okay. I think fintech in
Okay.
India, UPI has been one of the hottest innovations, if you ask me, like in terms of impact, in terms of like putting India on a global scale with
Yeah.
UPI, right? So I think that has been that in fact triggered to create this entire operator network for fintech folks. And the last one is something we've launched called the founder folks. So if you see,
Okay.
these are experiments on different niches. One is functional, one is for a certain set of our members. Another one is for PM turned founders or people in our community who've turned founders. So the idea is each of these will have very different requirements to see what really we can double down on, right? So say fintech folks is something that really works, then we might go broaden that. If like for example, women in product and founder folks really works, then we go based on okay, hey, what are people working on? Based on that, we will create vertical. So today we've started with these 4 experiments. Each of them I'm very excited about. So I think within the core team, I'm today more focused on new initiatives, and it's a 100% volunteer driven team. So I think everyone's picking up their bits, and that's why I think even spending time here in SF, you get to learn a lot about what are new stuff coming up in AI. Then founders here are very gracious with their time, right? So I bumped into, for example, the ex Twitter CEO at a meetup here, about a month ago.
Okay.
So that was fun. And yeah, I mean, it's been a learning. I think it's my first time here. So I feel like there is definitely a bridge that needs to be created between Bangalore and the Bay. And hopefully we can.
No, yeah, I think first of all, bro, I'm really super proud to see what you have been able to cover in the last 3 years and how your plans are. Like these are really ambitious and audacious, and I have 0% doubt on you not getting them all in. So all the super best. But one thing which is also very interesting and should be, highlighted here is that the community and right from the start has been volunteer driven, as you say, right? Now when you talked about these different communities, so these are vertical communities, like each with their own stacks, which you are building, and of course there is an entire community suite, right, which you are leading. How does this orchestration works in, because now it's not only online but it's also offline events, etc., etc. So I'm sure there might be POCs in different
Correct.
regions and different people coming along to build that chapter. So how is it working? Because this is again very interesting framework to learn.
So think of it, it's a common SOP, right? The playbook remains the same across all of them, but it's different
Hmm.
pods. So our entire community runs on like a pod structure. Essentially, you come into the
Okay.
community as a volunteer, you contribute to a pod, then eventually you lead a pod, then eventually you lead multiple pods, and then you lead like a bucket, which is essentially say you're in
Okay.
charge of like the entire marketing. So there are layers to community volunteer growing within the community as well. And I think so far the pod structure has worked out great. For example, someone picks up just like the fintech community, then they go in depth, right? Now within this, the playbook remains similar, right? Maybe they will not do everything that is happening at TPF, but some amount of offline events, some amount of online stuff. I think same in the requirements of that particular community might be different, and the stuff that they do might be slightly different. But there's a playbook that's worked for TPF, and we're trying to replicate that across multiple different smaller entities. So the idea is okay, hey, create, double down on what's worked. That is number one. And second,
Fair.
from the
Fair.
members, figure out what do they need. Like founders, for example, will have a very different requirement. Figure out what they need, then tweak the initiatives based on that. And especially in the vertical communities, don't these are more senior operators. These are curated networks. So for them, the kind of initiatives need to be tweaked to their requirements. So keep learning, keep hearing out, okay, what do the members want? And then take the
Hmm.
community that direction.
And like so, I understand the structure and the SOP bit which you are talking about. Now, let's say I'm sitting in Gurgaon right now and I want to host, or I don't want to like not sure of the right word what you call it in your playbook, but let's say I want to be a part of this, right?
Hmm.
Then how does the success of the initiative look like, right? So what do I do?
So it depends on what initiative you're contributing to. Say, I think you mentioned you're in Gurgaon,
Let's
so
say,
you're
the product, yeah, let's say the product folks community only. I want to, let's say, start a chapter or whatever,
you want to
right?
start a chapter there, right? So I think first step would be the GrabChai initiative, which is a monthly offline event. I think that would be the most relevant in our NCR chapter, right? In that
Okay.
you will join probably as someone who wants to contribute to the chapter, right? So essentially,
Okay.
you'll help running that monthly event. If you enjoy it, if you think, okay, hey, I want to get more involved, then you'll start leading that chapter.
When you say running, you means conducting the event, getting the
Conducting.
speaker, and getting the people, etc.
Exactly, exactly. So we have an SOP for that. Like, how do you run the
Okay.
event? We have an SOP for that. And depends on the city. Now, if it's a smaller city, lesser people come. If it's one of the main cities where we've already been, more people come. And that's how the community has been growing as well, right? So you start contributing to one of those initiatives. And honestly, we've done like 400 plus events now, that creating or conducting an event bit has been sorted. What we are trying to work on is what happens after the event, right? How do people discover
Hmm.
our other initiative? How do people get involved in the community further? How do they get what they want, right? If it's an aspiring PM, for example, how do they figure out, okay, there is already lots to learn. We have the mentorship
Hmm.
available. You have your interview prep available. You have opportunities available, right? We built out that entire stack. Now, if it's a mid-stage PM who is probably looking to connect with others, then we add them to another group that they're part of. So that is how I think the
Correct.
discovery layer is something that we're trying to figure. How do we make it easier for people to discover existing initiatives? Given that now there are breadth of initiatives, right? Initially, when there was just one or two things, it was a lot easier. Homepage, you'd see that
Hmm.
one main initiative. Now I think because I think of the spot structure, the advantage and disadvantage. Advantage is great. Parallelly, there are bunch of interesting things happening. The disadvantage is how do you get everything in front of relevant people, right? That is something that we're
Hmm.
still figuring out.
Got it. That is basically defining your topology and also then personalizing it for everyone who is a part of
Correct.
the community.
Exactly. Personalization, context for
Hmm.
them at that point of time is what we're trying to figure out.
Correct. So
How do
it's
we
kind
get
of a discovery problem to solve, like showing the
correct
right
discovery
recommendations and
post?
so on.
Yeah, that's true.
Got it. And okay, I mean, now I remember we were speaking about this, I think a few years back only when we discussed about those, you building and bringing in more sponsorship, etc. to, of course, there's a cost attached to so many things
Mm,
which are being done and
mm,
so on. And you said that, okay, sponsors help you fill in those pieces,
correct.
right? I mean, how has that journey been? Because it is also in a way saying that you are monetizing your community, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if it is monetizing the community or how do you put it, but you are basically finding sponsors to say, okay, this is the right pool where you should be paying for your eyeballs, right?
correct.
And when you are small, right? How was that for you? I mean, what were the
So
top
for us,
challenges you faced?
So for us, it was very simple. If we didn't do that, we would not be able to sustain the community. Correct. So I think for
Hmm.
us, it became a need more than anything. For a year and a half, I think when we chatted, that time we were still pretty tiny. That was a year and a half into our
Hmm.
journey. In fact, till
Correct.
then, we just started getting some sponsors. Right. 3 years ago is
Hmm.
when we just started having these conversations because it became a need. Till then, it wasn't a need. We used to
Hmm.
shell it out of our own pocket. But as you start growing, all costs start adding up. Right. 19 cities
Hmm.
monthly event has cost to it. Doing a conference has a cost to it. Today, sending out an email weekly to 175,000 members, that means you're sending over 800,000 emails. Plus, if there's a cohort that month, so if there's a cohort, you're sending over 2.5 million emails that month, right? And we do a
Hmm.
cohort every quarter. So even think of it like in a year, you're probably sending 10 to 15 million emails, and that has a cost
Hmm.
to it. Running social has a cost to it. Editing videos, so everything has some amount of cost to it. And eventually you're optimizing for that, right? If you want to grow faster, if you want to one of the biggest learning is expanding globally has like 10x cost to it, right? Honestly, like SF is expensive, dude. Like New York is expensive if you compare it back to
Definitely.
India. It's a different world. So I think that's where I think
Yeah.
really thankful to our sponsors, without whom I think we wouldn't have been this big this soon. The engagement, the support that they've been able to give us, I think at least allowed us to come this far, right? So even we are figuring out, I think as a model, the idea is to make it sustainable before anything else. The goal is, okay, hopefully be able to get to a stage where We don't like, there is that for every successful community, you should be able to pass on the baton or at least have the next gen come in. Right, today when we started in 2019, product management was very, very young, right? So that's why education of product management was such an important topic, at least in Asia, in India. Today, if you see, there is the other end of the spectrum. Problem is there's so much education around product management. People need to understand where to start, right? So I
Correct.
think passing on the baton there means, okay, hey, what is necessary for this time? There will be younger folks who will come in, they'll be like, okay, these are challenges of this time, let's focus on that. We will focus on maybe building out, say, vertical communities, global communities. So I think
Hmm.
communities need to keep reinventing themselves, right? With times changing, especially now in an AI world, product management in an AI world will be very different. Building startups in an AI world become very different. Today, you
Yeah.
talk to second time founders here, they said building products, building startups have become easier from a technology point of view. What has become harder is distribution, right? The last
Hmm.
decade was about, the arbitrage Google and Facebook had for you, right? Today, that arbitrage is gone. It become super expensive. CAC there has become pretty expensive, right? There is mindshare has become another thing, right? People have become numb to some of these things. So that's when the community-led growth movement came through. So that has
Hmm.
become like a very interesting playbook. Yesterday, starting with someone purely, we did like this is a product director, so pretty senior guy, just pure insights on PLS and CLG, right? Pure product led sales for a B2B startup and
Hmm.
community led growth for B2B startups. He's like, this next decade is about going to be about PLS and CLG. Like, how do you get people to be lovers of your brand? How are you going to get people to evangelize about you? How are you going to drive word of mouth? The community is here to stay now. It was always there. I think it's just become a little more mainstream. People have understood, okay, it is not
I
something
think I
which is
think it
becoming.
has always been there. Only as you rightly mentioned, the effort to or the friction to eventually build something with the advent of these no-code tools and AI coming in has really
True.
dropped. So the threshold has really dropped. So now, of course, what do you need? You need distribution of like mostly people will be able to build like if you are able to build the right community and distribution, that will be the
Exactly.
biggest value creation lever, I would say. I mean,
Exactly.
at this point of time, what all are your like key, I would say, source of, key source of not income, but running your expenses rather. Like you
There is
charge,
this
I
one.
think you charge a bit for the events and the sponsors, right?
99% of our events are all free. All our monthly events are free. Only the unconference was the paid one because there's no way we can host so many
Uh,
people. We had about 4,800 registrations willing to pay that much money, and we were able to, I think, shortlist only about 280 people. So I think a very, very
hmm,
curated event. I think that's a challenge with offline event. But the good part is, like, you have tons of CPOs. You had CPO from Misho, you had a CPO from Paytm.
hmm,
I've not seen
hmm,
another event in India, at least, where these CPOs have all. So the density was super high, and that's what I think people loved about it. And even speakers loved. We had a separate lounge for them, so them just interacting, staying around for the whole day. Like, these people, I thought they
hmm.
jump in, jump out, but they're staying here for the whole day. So I was super happy the way it turned out. But yeah, apart from that, I think the idea is to make it super accessible. So if you see, all our live cohorts are free, all our events are free.
Yeah, live cohorts are pay, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
So
idea is we will
then the
always
sponsors
continue
are the primary ones.
primary and the only one right now.
Hmm.
Eventually, we'll figure out member only communities. We'll figure out content led growth if there's a angle to that we can play. Basically,
Hmm.
figure out other
But but
streams.
but you have this clear path to say that okay it is going to be super accessible to all the members and new members coming in and
100%.
we will use or we'll get more sponsors and parts to onboard and help this run.
100%. See, the idea with which we started was, how does everyone without a pedigree get a foot in the door? As simple as that, right? In
Yeah,
India
yeah.
today, your top 1% is always going to get an opportunity, right? Like, I think there are so many people who focused on building these really crazy, super curated community. Those are also very, very useful, right? But to be very honest with you, if you are from a pedigreed institution or you're from a pedigreed company that you've worked with, getting your foot in the door is honestly not that hard. Your alumni network is strong. A cold email from an email ID that is, well reputed will get you a
Okay.
response, right? 99% of the other part of the population wishes they had that access, right? And if I were to look back,
Correct.
right, I don't particularly come from a tier one institution. So many people that when I still go back to college, or when I talk to people who are even a decade into their journey, one of the main things is about exposure, right? Especially when you're in that
Hmm.
0 to 10 years of your career. And
Correct.
on the flip side, I also agree, like with the internet generation, there is no excuse to
We
this.
all are connected. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all connected. So somewhere I feel like, yes, maybe if we just got relevant information in the hands of people, it could enable them to do so. I'm not saying that we'll bring like jobs to everyone, right? That's virtually impossible. The number of people who want to get into product versus the number of opportunities, there's not much I or the community today can do. But if you could expose tons of people to knowledge on building great products, just imagine the class of products that have been coming out in the 2017-18 era versus the 22-23 era, right? It's a class apart,
Definitely.
right? We are now
Definitely.
at a global stage. So our contribution or our vision has just been getting India or getting Asia on the global roadmap. It doesn't mean that everyone who enters product folks has to become a product manager. That's not what we're saying, right? Even just experiencing one of our cohorts, enabling a designer or a developer to understand, okay, hey, what goes into building great products. Tomorrow they can have much stronger conversations when they're building products with their existing teams, right? Our
Correct.
idea is focus a lot on product sense, enable people to understand what they don't know, and that should be accessible, right? Today, tier one, yes, a lot of people can afford a lot of things, but if we really want our institutions to grow, I think the problem of exposure is something that we wanted to solve. And I think that is something that's not so accessible, and exposure is something we want to solve at scale. I think that is something that we want to continue driving. And we figure out what works, right? For example, there are people who joined us 4 years ago. Today they're in a position, they're like, hey, for us, we want something more curated. Right. So maybe we'll build a layer for them on top of what is existing. But what we've built, I think that we will not sway away from that.
Hmm. Got it. And I think I also agree on this exposure wala bit and share like a very common philosophy here. Although I acknowledge and I am aware of the privilege I got coming from the IIT background. But I also feel that, in today's era where, your skills matter more than your resume kind of a world, the I would say the best advantage of you coming from a pedigree college is that you get an initial exposure by default without like, I mean, of course you had put efforts earlier, but at that point of time, you get a defined exposure at day zero when you were starting your career in that sense. Versus for a newbie coming from tier two, tier three, it would be something the person will have to build using their skills or a smaller set of their alumni network. But after like 3 4 years or so, of course it is going to be more dependent on how passionate you are, how skilled you are, and how
Correct.
openly you are chasing the world and the problems. So but
Correct.
good, definitely, I mean, if communities like not only product folks, but more of these into all the different learning stacks, right? Where you are also doing the vertical stacks. Keep on coming. I mean, and the barrier to entry and the like barrier to that exposure actually reduces. A lot of value can be unpacked. And I mean, of
I'll
course,
ask you a question.
like,
I'll ask you a question here.
yeah,
It's very natural for you and me to think, okay, yeah, the exposure is for 0 to 5 years, right? But say today, the stage we are probably mid-career professionals, you and me today. So for us, and see, you come from the technologies, pure, say the engineering side of things. I come from the product side of things. I'll give you a
Mhm.
relevant example for us, right? Tomorrow, like say you're in Delhi today, if you got access to someone at OpenAI or Anthropic or Poe, right? Wouldn't that exposure be super valuable for you? Do you one say that, hey,
Definitely.
you have good access? If you do, then you're probably in the top 1% already. If not, do you think there is value in you having access to that? Right.
Definitely, definitely. There's a
So
lot of
that
value.
is the exposure stack that I feel is super relevant for 5 to 10 years. Right. So
Correct.
0 to 5 is
No,
definitely
what I meant there was that 0 to 5 is something where you are really like new and correct. But at 5 plus, as you rightly said, like the possibility of me getting connected to someone at an open AI or even someone more aspirational and someone who really worked their ass off, not coming from a pedigree institute, but really worked hard, is almost on the similar lines because the world is
True.
connected and now you need to do the similar kind of effort.
True.
I won't just get it because I come from a pedigree thing, and I think yeah,
Yeah.
now the real hard work would speak for it. But yeah, aligned on the point.
Agreed, agreed. It's just if there could be something more that could be done to make it a level playing field for the other.
Correct,
That is
correct,
that is
correct.
the and again it is only see baseline to this is I think one very popular Twitter thing that went around now is Nayan Murthy sir's 70-hour work week, right? I think it was completely misquoted. If you see the video, I think there
Yeah,
is video.
yeah, I saw the video and remembering to tweet. I was just thinking to tweet, but I then skipped. Yeah, Indians have this thing about, I'm not sure if you have heard this, they are just going into that particular state. Those like literally 20 hours work week, these 4 words, they have like literally gone mad over it versus getting the context. For what I could sense before even you tell, it was more from an aspirational lens that boss you like to take India out there on the global front and even to make it successful, you need to literally be out of your comfort zones and work really hard. 70 or 80 or 100, I don't think so, is a
It's just an
way how
arbitrary
we
number.
can
I think
portray. He was just putting, yeah, it was just an arbitrary
exactly.
number, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
And if you see the factually, there's nothing incorrect that he said, right? He started off by saying India's work productivity is at a minimal if you compare it on a global scale, which is
correct,
completely true. We all have worked in the
correct,
ecosystem. We know how many chai sutta breaks we take. We know, and
correct,
honestly, 70-hour work week is also arbitrary for the fact that if you worked outside, like I worked in Europe since 2019, I'm currently sitting in SF. The culture of working is very different, dude. People work for 8 hours, but those 8 hours are so much more productive. So
super
what he meant is
productive.
one,
Yeah,
and he said it very clearly. He's like work productivity is at a low. Second, government institutions are trying their best, but at a population of 1.4 billion, it is up to public-private working together, right? Government has to make things simpler. There has to reduce corruption on that side. And at the same time, what has driven the IT sector, dude? Everyone is like saying so much about it online. IT sector has brought us to where we are today. Yes, you can talk about it as a services nation or whatever. Dude, like for that entire generation, it has changed the face of India. And today, India's exports
yeah.
are more than the amount of like money that Qatar earns from oil. So, like, dude, that industry is untouchable unless you've done something in that sector. At least go one level depth on that. And then what he did was he requested. I request okay the young generation to now like step up. That's all he's saying. And he's not telling everyone to do. Nor is he telling come work for Infosys. He's not even saying oh come work 70 hours for me. All he's saying is do whatever you want. If you want to build your own thing, if you want to work at something interesting, dude, it is an arbitrary number. I don't even know where people got stuck on. And the reason I brought that up is that is also boils down to exposure, dude. That very simple statement that we used to hear about, you are the common between the 5 people that you surround yourself with. It is just about that. Put
Absolutely.
yourself in that position. You will automatically like if you enjoy it. Right. End of the day, it is still your choice, right? You want to work for 30 hours, 20 hours, 40 hours, 70 years,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
And if
Understand?
you're happy with that, like go ahead, right?
That's
That's
all.
okay. That's your dream life. That's your aspiration. Why not? And I
No one
was
has changed the world
like,
working 20 hours a week, dude. That is at least
yeah,
that is a factual thing everyone knows. So
that is a
like
factual thing, correct, right?
yeah.
So, and I'm just like mesmerized by the fact that like so many so-called intellectual folks also out there. I mean, not to name anyone in particular, putting out and randomly shitting on Mr. Narayan Murthy is making no sense at all. That person has done, I mean, leave about work, toxicity, and all those shit, but that person has contributed so much at an Indian, at the country's level, right? Right, in terms of bringing a value to the nation and even outside. So at least give that respect, but not really sure how, how to take it forward. But yeah, at least
And he's
I,
given
I
everyone the
am,
choice. He's like, it's a request. He's not forcing anyone. He's not telling,
yeah,
and he's not telling. And the best part is he's not telling you to come work for him. He's just telling you, you put in that effort. Like everyone's putting in, and everyone knows it at the back of their head, dude. Like I have no idea why people are out there. He never told come work for Infosys and take 3 lakhs and work 70 hours. He's not even saying, I have no idea. All the comments are just about that. That, oh, dude, you are a founder, so you will work 70 hours.
Infosys,
I'm an
yes.
employee, so I will not work 70 hours. He's not telling you as an employee, come do whatever you want. And he's not even telling, come work for Infosys.
Correct.
There are so many companies, get a remote job, you'll be paid for that effort, right? Figure out so many things. If you work for a US company, today you get paid at global salaries. Figure out that. That's all he's saying,
Yeah.
dude. He's like, improve your own standard. Just put that effort. That's all he's saying. I have no idea, dude. Like, and the reason I brought it up also is that it is across. You open Twitter, everyone's talking about it. You open LinkedIn, everyone's talking about it. Our WhatsApp groups are talking. Like, dude, like there is no second thoughts about it. It's a very simple thing, dude. Like I'm,
And I
and
can
you
I
just
can
get one
bet like
screenshot.
more than 80% of the people have not even seen the video
Seen
to
the
have
video,
the
yeah, that's so good.
context.
Yeah, that is something, yeah. But good, I mean, at least this platform we chat about it, hopefully some of them go back and see the video and then clear that bit as well.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. I'll also, as we discuss about it in detail, I will also, put that in the comments for everyone to see, to
Yeah,
have whoever this reaches out. It's very much
yeah,
needed. Great. I think, yeah, coming back to our journey, like
yeah.
this is great fun seeing your journey and how you are also on the lines of Narayan Murthy ji,
No,
contributing
very, very
to take India to the global
not even
level.
close, dude, not even close.
Very, very
But
early, very, very early, but I think you also know that, you are working really, really hard to ensure that some positive value out of this is created and not only pure business or economic terms. Now, I have a very fundamental question to ask about product management because this is something which is the space where you are in and you have seen the journey. Now, when the AI thing is rolling into and we discussed about making products, making tech, is relatively is relatively getting easier, right? And the value of distribution is increasing. But how do you think the role of a PM has started to evolve with this? Because now you have ChatGPT. Now you go and ask for feature recommendations. You get a printed PRD out there in a matter of seconds with like written in better words, written with a bigger objective, with a clearer objective, right? So how do you think this is going to change the way PMs work?
I think I'm actually very happy with, at least those level of tasks that can be automated by GPT, because then I think PMs can now start working on the real product management. Or else I think PMs were boiled down today to, feature writing, PRD writing, BRD writing, and communication. So I think
Hmm.
at least now it allows product managers to focus on the real product building. And life had always become about just documentation, communication, get this done. So I think this is where the real product management comes out, and I think AI just helps. So that's the evolution of product management. If you ask me counterintuitively, product management isn't going away. As long as you think software products have to be built,
Yeah.
management isn't going away. So that's one thing we're getting out of the way for a lot of folks listening in. Second, I think hyper optimization today, right? Like you said, all of these tools are only going to be making the lives of a product manager a lot easier in terms of the stuff that can be repetitive at times. So documentation can be done a lot faster. I think at companies, I know, talking to someone like day before yesterday who's built out the entire org today works on Markdown. Like it's a 800 member organization. Over a weekend, one of the PMs has sat and built out this entire layer of documentation using GPT, where there's now no
Hmm.
excuse for, and they've rewritten the entire documentation. And even marketing teams are using Markdown today. They've just built a layer on top of it. And you should read Stripe's process of documentation and making changes in the organization today, right? Even if you are a customer support guy, you're a marketing guy, you're a technical guy, you're a operations guy. If you spot something as an error on the website, on the documents, you just need, they in fact have an internal Chrome extension. So they built a layer UI on top of Markdown, and it's a simple git commit, right? So you just make the change, you commit it, and it's as simple as a Chrome extension. So they probably don't even have to go
Okay.
through that layer. Whoever is in charge of that particular entry has to make the approval, right?
Hmm.
So if it comes under the marketing department one, there's a small team that takes care of approvals, and this is based on whichever structure that's coming in. So I think lots of optimization that's going to come in our way
Yeah.
via AI. So in Asia, where we used to throw people at a problem, hopefully that will come down. But I think we're still slightly early, because at scale, some of these costs add up. So that is something that I'm waiting to see. I know there is lots of technological innovation that's coming through. So maybe if there's enough context that we can feed in, maybe the bloated organizations that we used to see, or the organizational structure that eventually used to get so bloated, we
That
might
is
see
going to
that
become
getting
lean.
cut down. Yeah. So leaner organizations is something that I think might come down,
Yeah.
might come about. Second, like I said, I think optimization in the role itself, right? I think there is no product manager who can say I'm not going to use AI in my workflow. Every product manager is going to use some part of AI in their workflow. I think it started from the marketing side. It will move to product. It is already moved to developers. I think everyone in every team
Yeah.
should be having like
Copilot.
a GitHub Copilot access, right? So I think that is the trend that I'm seeing, like hyper optimization in your role, leaner organizations instead of bulking up, and more focus today now is going to go on the distribution side of things. I think growth PM is definitely going to become a bigger term. Of course, there has to be some structure. Like I think as with every field, once it gets popular, it becomes difficult to there'll be tons of definition. But I think true growth product management is something that we are yet to see in India. So I think that is something that will definitely, the marketing teams, product teams will be working a lot closer together to figure out, okay, here, what are some other different ways that we can grow profitably, which is the talk of the town today.
Yeah, I mean, from growth, the topic of discussion has changed to profits all over the
Yeah,
world. So
yeah,
it's a nice state to be in. I also want to really learn because I haven't been there yet, but want to really understand the key differences you are finding in terms of energy, in terms of execution, in terms of even aspiration for that matter of founders and builders in, let's say, India. I will put India versus only saying Bangalore, and let's say the Bay Area where you are right now. So what are like few black and white things you are clearly seeing a distinction between, and you feel that there's a lot to learn from or to catch up on?
I think two things that optimize after seeing things here, and something that we should definitely implement or come to different parts of India. I think Bangalore and Bay are somewhere very similar. So the characteristics is the Bay is a lot more capitalistic. I think that is something we all need to learn. I think in India, that is one. Second, density. I think for youngsters listening into this, put yourself in a city that is surrounded by technological density, right? I think that is the biggest thing you could do for yourself. I think remote work has become like a huge thing today, but I think at least in 0 to 5, although it feels great to optimize, and take it with context. Like if you're an ICPM or if you're an IC developer, maybe working with a global organization that is paying you in dollars at a global level might seem very lucrative, and take it, like no doubt, take it for a couple of years. But so that is the context, right? If you're getting like a outlier benefit on one side, take it. But other than that, I think 19-20 difference just to stay maybe at the comfort of your hometown,
Yeah.
or saving on rent. I think that delta difference, because it's intangible, right? You, me, and 15 other people working from the same room might not seem like, for someone who's not entered the workforce, it might not seem like so much of a benefit. Might feel a lot comfortable staying closer to home, and I get that feeling, right? But I think at least early in your career, try to put yourself through that. It is okay if you need to spend a little on
Yeah.
the rent, or it is okay staying a couple of years away, but because that intangible benefit of being in the same room with people who've been there, done that, is a lot more. So I
Yeah.
think these are two areas that I feel are super important. Second, I think there's always like remove all the apps on your phone, right? Other than hyperlocal delivery and transportation, every other app that you're using today, and maybe you and I could just look at our top 10 apps. Like we could do that on our phone. You can remove yours, I can remove mine by usage. Let me just do that. Tell me what are the top 10 apps that come up for you, and I'll just show you on mine. It's
Wait.
iOS or Android?
I was
iOS, there's a thing called screen time,
searching for that.
and in that you
Oh,
just go to see all
syndication.
activity, and that most used. Just read out your top. First of all, the device you're on, right? So Apple is sitting on tons of cash flow because of you and me. We pay for $80,000, 80,000 rupee phones.
Interesting.
Do you want to call out your
So
top 5, top 10?
it's embarrassing, but I'll definitely take it. Instagram, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube Studio because I do it for
Yeah.
analytics, Gmail, Chrome, Uber. Yeah. Then these are the basic ones, messages, etc. But yeah, these are the top relevant ones.
So the reason I did that, I think not one Indian app. No, I think similar for me also. If you think
Yeah.
WhatsApp, only difference is WhatsApp is on number one. Then I think I've been traveling a little bit here, so Google Maps is showing for me, but that's probably the last
Hmm.
7 days. Gmail, yes, definitely. I think has
Hmm.
then Google Calendar. That's my number four right now. ChatGPT is number five. I tend to use it a lot on the phone right now. Notes is number six inherent app here. DoorDash because I think I've been ordering a little bit, but otherwise in India I think Swiggy. So
Hmm.
that is one thing that's why I said
Yeah.
hyperlocal delivery and transport, right? I think between Ola and Uber, I think there is definitely a good
Yeah. Uber was
pref-
there for me also.
Uber. Yeah,
Yeah.
even I tend to use Uber, but I'm just trying to show you. I think this is something everyone can do, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
idea is slowly can we start getting like what is the reason, right? We use these because they've definitely failed from one side, but eventually I feel there will be a great product built from India on the consumer side. My aim is to see, okay,
Hmm.
hey, can we help bring at least one or two apps in this top 10 globally, right? So that is where I want to like see to contribute to some part of this journey, right? So yeah, this is just something now. Only when you see it, if I said it, then you wouldn't have gotten the impact. Now that you see it, this is what I meant by okay, hey, this is the difference between the valley and so a lot of times, people
No,
tell us
but
like,
see, I think this is also I agree and acknowledge this, but this also comes because I mean the Valley has been technically really advanced and been
yeah, that's
literally
probably
the
the reason.
creators before we started. That's probably the reason
100%.
they are too ahead,
I'm not
right?
denying that at all.
Uh,
All I'm saying is
yeah.
because that's the reason. Spend some time here. I'm not saying okay, we need to spend all the time here.
Hmm.
Exactly the reason you
Hmm.
mentioned, right? Valley is a mature market.
Correct. No, so right now, then what are you trying? What you're trying to say is that even the products which are being built in, let's say, in India versus Valley, they differ, of course, in terms of use cases. But then, do you think they are like way different in terms of maturity of the product as well?
Today there are Indian alternatives to all these products. No? Why do you still use these? What is the reason?
Yeah, because of the maturity. But I'm talking about more future looking, right? So for example, let's say Chat GPT came in, right? Came in at the
Yeah,
same time, and
yeah,
now you would see if you just open YC applications and you would see like 70%, 80% of them building on top of AI, GPT,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What I'm trying to ask is like if you are able to sense that difference for the forward looking things that on the same kind of problems, similar kind of problems, do you feel that the founders there or because of the sheer ecosystem are ahead than us, be it in terms of access to capital, be it in terms of smartness or maturity of the market itself, right? What are you finding there in terms of this difference?
See, I have no doubt on the talent that we have in India, so I'm super bullish on that bit. What I haven't been
Yeah.
able to see yet is the market, right? Market is something that's not in your hands. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. If you're building a SaaS
Mm.
startup in India, right, you're probably as aspirational as someone here. That doesn't change. There is zero difference in that. And today, maybe I feel like the capital markets here are slightly stronger, right? It is
Yeah.
you can probably build multi-million dollar vertical SaaS business in even like say if you want to build in it's crowded. I'm not saying it's easy, right? It is crowded, but the willingness to pay is at least there in a market like this, right? That is something that I feel missing.
Mm.
And all I'm saying is we are going to get there. Like India will get there. Every Asian market will get there. It's just matter of time. All I'm saying is the learnings. Can there be a way that you could learn from people who and exactly like you said, mature market they've gone through this cycle, right? They've gotten there because they've built multiple iterations of this. The ecosystem has been there for 4x number of years as we have been there. Capital available, there are 2,200 VCs here. In India, countably, there would be, 50 to 80 VCs you'd invest in. So
Yeah.
all I'm saying is the access to capital, access to people, buying
Hmm.
power, that
Fair,
is
which is
something
fair.
that you can learn from. And also like the density, like if, for example, there is something called the Cerebral Valley, like it's a community here in SF. There
Okay.
are 80,
Okay.
90, 100 AI events they post every week, right? Of course, I'm not saying that,
Hmm.
all of these will be amazing, But in that, you have access to go to some really good events that are happening, meet people who are building stuff. So filter out that knowledge. If that can happen across multiple ecosystems, multiple cities in India, that is where ecosystems can be built, right? And maybe that would start with, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. Maybe the hotspots would emerge there. I think Slush is coming to Delhi. They
Definitely.
will come to Bangalore next year.
Yeah.
And those ecosystems need to come up. It's just a matter of, hey, are we moving in the right direction? Can there be a bridge that can be created? Can we learn from what's happening here? Move and, iterate at a faster pace? Can our companies get support in some way? All right. Sometimes it is just about technology learning. There is, tons of research happening here in lots of colleges, research grants available for colleges here, which is
Yeah.
tons ahead of, and that's where I think this cutting edge innovation is happening. Correct. So I'm just saying from that point of view, and regardless of which part of the world you are, spend some time in the density. Like in India, I feel that could be Bangalore. You might be biased, you might be like, Delhi NCR is that, but
No,
anywhere, wherever you
I
find density.
agree, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, surround yourself with interesting people. As simple. Let's keep it as simple as that. Whichever part you're
Yeah.
in the world, like try to optimize for that. If you surround, and it could be on the internet. It doesn't have to be a physical location, right? Today, I think if you we both met via Twitter. I think I've met 99% of the TPF community via Twitter. So I think you can really find interesting folks, and you get inspired from each other, right? Like even it doesn't have to be physically in the same location. As long
Absolutely.
as you can create that access. And best part about finding an interesting tribe is become interesting. You will attract your tribe, right? So it works both ways. Interesting people want to be with
Yeah.
interesting people, build interesting stuff. So you'll find your tribe, right? If you figure out how you can become more interesting and who you want to hang out with, that'll happen today. Those barriers are breaking.
Amazing. I'm super pumped. 1 a.m. in the midnight. Thanks for
Yeah.
the energy, Suhas. What you just said is replicated right now. I can see a practical reality of it. But thanks, bro, for doing this wholeheartedly. Full. We have been planning this for a while, and trust me, we spent more than an hour discussing, but it was really a vibe and looking forward to many more discussions, not only podcasts in particular, and we should meet.
No, thanks so much. This was awesome. Like you said, a lot pending. I think someone needs to solve for like setting calendars across different time zones. I still find that super hard. But yeah, no, this was awesome. I'd love to, catch up with you